12 states, 15 days. Join me as I discuss my trip of Route 66 and beyond and the journey and experience I got to have. Gonna do a day by day of where I went and what I did, just so you all can see what the fun things I got to do. So I hope you enjoy and stay tuned. After months of planning and booking and mapping everything out, it was finally time to depart for the trip. Now, why Route 66, you may be asking? Well, to be honest, I don't know. It's always been something that I've thought about doing, honestly, ever since I watched the movie Cars as a kid, when they talk about the importance and what it used to be and just how many places it covered and what all it was. I've always loved the idea of doing it one day, just never actually thought I would. But, my internship was coming to an end, I had money saved up, and I was just ready to go and see the world and travel some while I had this time of kind of no commitment going on. So here we are, it's time. You can only do so much planning before you just got to get out and go. So day one, got up in the morning, and me and my mom went to Chicago. I figured that since most of the trip would be alone, that day one, when I go to Chicago, it would be fun to take my mom along with me. She'd not really ever been to Chicago, and it was also she was gone on her birthday, so this was my kind of late birthday gift to her, just to spend some time with her and take her to Chicago. So we got up and hit the road, and we rode Route 66 pretty much the whole way there. And along the way, we found a few stops. The first one was this old town with a gas station and some photo opportunities and just really cool vibes. So we went and took some photos and just looked at what all they had to offer and just enjoyed the first stop. There was this dinosaur statue thing by the gas station, which was pretty cool. There was all of these old things that we just got to see, but we knew we couldn't stay too long as we had to hit the road so we could enjoy more of the day in Chicago. So we kept driving for a while, and probably about another 2 hours down the road, we came across this the world's largest covered wagon. And so we stopped there and took some photos, read about it, and that kind of set the tone for what to expect the rest of the trip, because I knew there's a ton of stuff like this along the route where there's just these weird, fun, random things along the route that you could stop and take photos at. So, that was kind of exciting for me, just to say, yeah, this is going to be weird. I'm going to find a ton of random stuff, but it's going to be a lot of fun to see and just to kind of explore. So that was super cool, and then we hit the road and went the rest of the way to Chicago. We had made it a point that the first thing we would do in Chicago was, of course, find the beginning of Route 66 sign. So we did. We found the sign where the route begins and took photos at it and kind of just, for me, took it in as this is the start of the next, 2 weeks that I'm going to be doing. And so from there, we knew we had to go see the Bean. You can't really say you went to Chicago if you didn't at least see the Bean. So we went there, took some fun photos, and just had a good time. But then we kind of got to a point where we didn't really have a game plan. Most of my trip, you'll learn, I kind of just went. I knew where I was going, and I knew kind of some things I wanted to do, but there were times that I didn't really have a game plan, and this was one of those. Just wanted to kind of find things to do as we were there. So me and my mom just kind of walked around and looked at the city, looked at the buildings, and found this really cool fountain here, and just found a ton of other fun things to do. But they were also setting up for a carnival or a festival or some kind of like huge Chicago thing that was happening in like a day or two. So we were watching them set up tents and set up audio gear, lighting, and merchandise, and a ton of things. So it was just kind of cool to watch that process and just clearly see that there was something huge about to happen there that looked pretty cool. So, we kept walking, and then we went and got some lunch just to kind of look at what we could do next. And while we were there, we had heard a lot about the Navy Pier, and so we actually looked into it and decided we would just go check it out. So after lunch, we walked over and, we got to explore the Navy Pier. Here's me in front of the Navy Pier as we're about to walk in, and this is kind of where we spent most of our day, honestly. There was a huge Ferris wheel there, and so as soon as me and my mom saw that, we knew we had to do that because Ferris wheels has always been something me and her love. Growing up, I have a lot of memories of Ferris wheels with her because growing up, I used to not like roller coasters, and my mom wasn't huge on them either. So while my dad, brother, and sister would be doing roller coasters at places, me and my mom would just go find a Ferris wheel and do that together. And so I have a lot of memories of those with her, and so that was just special to get to do that again. And it was also really, really cool, just huge Ferris wheel, getting to see the city from above. I mean, these photos here show kind of what it looks like. It was really nice, really cool, and had a great time with that. So, after the Ferris wheel, we kind of just were looking what else to do at the pier, and when we saw a Skyline cruise that looked pretty fun, and it was leaving in like 30 minutes, so we figured we'd just give that a try. And I was super glad we did because it was really nice. The weather was great, so we got to enjoy like a good time on the boat, as you see here, and we just got to kind of relax for a bit after walking a lot and driving for most of the day. So that was nice. But then on the cruise, it was cool because they gave us like a really nice history of Chicago and some of these buildings we saw on the skyline. And they also talked about like they would point out when buildings were used in films, like they pointed out The Dark Knight, they pointed out Ferris Bueller, Blues Brothers, Transformers Dark of the Moon, like all these movies that some of these buildings were actually filmed in, and you could actually see like where they filmed it at, which was cool. As a movie guy, like I love that. So that was a great kind of like late evening thing we did, but the night was starting to wind down a little bit, so we knew we didn't have too much longer. We had to get back as I had to keep driving the next day, and so we went to, before we left, we had to get some Chicago style pizza because that's like a staple that you have to try. So we went to this pizza place right here and got some Chicago style pizza and had a great meal before hitting the road and heading back for the night. That was kind of a very brief overview of what our day in Chicago looked like and just some of the things we got to do. I'm really glad I got to bring my mom with me and I could share that moment with her. Just a lot of fun and great times. And, it kind of set the tone for what to expect the rest of the trip. It was a great way to start it, and I knew that this trip was about to be a lot of fun. So join me for part 2 as I talk about my day 2 trip of St. Louis to Tulsa and some things I did that day. And thank you for watching day 1 of my trip of Chicago.